I've been waiting for you.
One forbidden door. But some seek uncovered a conspiracy hidden for years. Part 2.
The security officer smiled, not the smile of a man who had just rescued someone, but the smile of someone who knew exactly what Sarah had seen. Sarah stood frozen in the silent fourth-floor hallway, watching him disappear around the corner, behind her. Apartment 407 slowly creaked shut, click. The sound echoed through the empty hallway. For several long seconds, she couldn't move. Every instinct told her to leave the building. Quit the job. Forget everything. The hidden compartment, the surveillance files, the mysterious stranger, and worst of all, the envelope bearing her own name. Next, Sarah Williams, who had created that file. How long had they been watching her, and why had they chosen her that night? Sleep never came. Every time Sarah closed her eyes, she saw the old black-and-white photograph, the same man's face, the faded date beneath it, 1987. It was impossible. No one looked exactly the same after nearly 40 years, unless... She had misunderstood everything. By sunrise, Sarah had made up her mind. She wasn't quitting, she wasn't running. She was going to uncover the truth. No matter what it cost. Scene 2, City, of reporting to work. Sarah drove to the city archives. Hidden beneath City Hall, the records office was quiet and almost forgotten. Rows of aging shelves stretched into the darkness. Dust floated through narrow beams of morning sunlight. An elderly clerk looked up from behind the "Can I help you find?" Sarah placed the old photograph in front of him. "I need everything you have on this man." The clerk adjusted his glasses. His expression changed immediately. Daniel Harper. He hesitated before disappearing into the storage room. Nearly half an hour later, he returned carrying several worn folders. They're all that's left. Sarah thanked him and sat alone at a wooden table. The first folders contained business records and newspaper articles. Daniel Harper had been respected, successful, a businessman admired throughout the city, until one headline changed everything. Local businessman VANISHES without a trace. Sarah sighed. She already knew that part. Then she opened the final folder, unlike the others. It wasn't labeled with official records. Across the front, someone had handwritten 2 words, family records. Inside were several old photographs, Daniel smiling beside his wife, family vacations, birthday parties then. One picture stopped Sarah cold. Daniel knelt beside a young boy, dark hair, warm brown eyes, a small scar above his right eyebrow. Sarah's heartbeat quickened. The child looked exactly like the man she'd met inside apartment 407. She turned the photograph over. Written in faded blue ink were 6 simple words: Daniel Harper and son, Michael. Summer 1987. Sarah stared at the words, then everything clicked into place. The man in apartment 407 wasn't Daniel Harper, he was son, Michael Harper. As Sarah carefully returned the photograph to the folder, something slipped from the back cover and landed on the floor, a folded piece of paper, yellow with age. She picked it up. It wasn't an official document. It was a handwritten letter, across the front. One word, Michael. Sarah's pulse quickened. Slowly she unfolded it. The handwriting was hurried and uneven, as though the writer had been terrified. The very first sentence made her blood run cold. "If you're reading this, they finally found me." She swallowed hard and continued. "Michael, if I disappear, don't waste your life searching for me. Leave Ashcroft. Return to apartment 407. And never trust anyone wearing the building's uniform." Sarah froze. The building's uniform, the security guards, the maintenance workers, even Mr. Donovan. She turned the page. Apartment 407 was never abandoned. It became their storage room because nobody dares question a locked door. Her breathing became shallow. Another line had been underlined twice. "If they discover you've read this, you'll be next." The letter ended abruptly. No signature, only a dark stain at the bottom of the page. Sarah couldn't tell whether it was dried ink or dried blood. She folded the letter and slipped it into her handbag. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the table. The elderly clerk stood beside her. His face had gone pale. "You need to leave." Sarah frowned. "What?" "You need to leave now." His voice trembled. "They're here." Sarah looked toward the entrance. 2 men wearing black suits had just entered the archives. Neither spoke. Neither looked at the shelves. They were looking at people, searching. The clerk leaned closer. "Back door." Sarah could respond. He shoved an entire stack of files from a nearby shelf. They crashed loudly onto the floor. The 2 men immediately turned toward the noise. Go. Sarah didn't hesitate. She slipped through the rear exit and sprinted into the parking lot. Scene 4, someone is watching. Sarah climbed into her car, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped her keys. The engine started before she could pull away. Phone rang, unknown number again. She hesitated, then answered. Silence, only slow breathing then. The same calm voice she had heard inside apartment 407. Don't go home. Sarah gripped the phone tighter. Who are you? You've already made one mistake. Pause, don't make another. The call disconnected. Sarah slowly looked into her rearview mirror. A black sedan rolled quietly into the parking lot, its headlights switched off. It didn't move, it simply waited. Sarah's stomach tightened. She drove away. The sedan followed. She turned left, it turned left. She changed lanes, it changed lanes. There was no doubt anymore someone was following her. Then she remembered something, the family photograph, the address written on the back, 18 Willow Creek Road. The Harper family home, if Michael Harper was still alive. That house might finally give her the answers she'd been searching for. Sarah took the next exit, behind her. The black sedan stayed close, 3 car lengths behind, never getting closer, never falling back, almost, as if it wanted her to know it was there. 20 minutes later. Sarah turned onto Willow Creek Road. The neighborhood looked forgotten. Most of the houses were abandoned. Windows were boarded up. Lawns had disappeared beneath waist-high weeds. Then she saw it, number 18. The Harper family home, a 2-story brick house hidden behind overgrown hedges. Its paint had faded years ago. Broken shutters hung crookedly from the windows. No signs of life. Sarah parked half a block away. She glanced into her rearview mirror, the black sedan. Gone, her relief lasted only a second. Had she lost them? Or had they already arrived? She stepped through the rusted front gate. It groaned loudly. The sound echoed through the silent neighborhood. Every instinct told her someone was watching. She reached the front porch. A heavy chain secured the front door. A faded city notice declared the house condemned years earlier. There was only one way inside. The back, tall weeds brushed against her legs as she circled the house. An old playground swing stood alone beneath a dying oak tree. It moved gently back and forth, back and forth. Sarah stopped walking. There wasn't a breath of wind. Yet the swing never stopped moving. She looked around. Nothing. Only silence. Trying to ignore the uneasy feeling creeping into her chest. She continued toward the rear entrance. The back door stood slightly open, just enough for someone to slip inside. Sarah swallowed hard. Hello? No answer. She pushed the door wider and stepped into the darkness. Dust floated through thin rays of sunlight spilling from broken windows. Furniture remained exactly where it had been left years ago. Family photographs still hung on the walls. A calendar still showed the same month, 11 years earlier. It looked as though time itself had stopped. Then, a floorboard creaked upstairs. Sarah froze. Someone else was inside. She slowly reached into her handbag and pulled out a flashlight. Its beam swept across the room. Nothing, taking a deep breath. She climbed the staircase. Every step groaned beneath her weight at the top of the stairs. One bedroom door stood open. It was a child's room. Toy cars, baseball trophies, school books. A faded poster of astronauts still covered one wall. Sarah picked up a framed photograph. Daniel Harper stood proudly beside the same little boy from the archives, Michael. Her eyes drifted toward the bookshelf. One book stuck out farther than the others, curious. She pulled it. Click. A narrow wooden panel beside the closet quietly swung open. Behind it, a tiny hidden room, barely large enough for one person. Sarah slowly stepped inside. A folding bed, blankets, medical supplies, bottled water, canned food. Someone had been living here recently. Then she noticed something impossible. A ceramic coffee mug, steam still curled from the top, fresh, exactly like the coffee she'd seen inside apartment 407. Sarah whispered. No, she wasn't following Michael Harper. Been staying one step ahead of her all along. Then a calm voice spoke behind, warned you. Sarah closed her eyes. She recognized the voice instantly. You should have walked away. Slowly, she turned around, standing quietly in the doorway. The mysterious man from apartment 407, only this time. His face wasn't hidden by shadows. He looked exhausted, not dangerous, just tired, like someone who had spent years carrying a burden too heavy for one person. He looked directly into Sarah's eyes, then spoke. My name isn't Daniel Harper. He paused. My name is Michael Harper. Pause, and you're in far more danger than you realize. Sarah couldn't speak for several long seconds. She simply stared at the man standing before her, the same face from the photograph, the same scar above his eyebrow, the same calm eyes, only now she finally understood. "You," she whispered. "You're Daniel Harper's son." Michael gave a slow nod. "I always have been." Sarah took a cautious step forward. "Everyone thought you were your father." "They wanted people to think that," Michael replied quietly. "It made the truth easier to hide." Sarah frowned. "Then what really happened to Daniel Harper?" Michael picked up the old family photograph from the bedside table. His thumb gently brushed the dust from the glass. "My father was supervising renovation work inside Ashcroft Residences. One afternoon, the workers accidentally broke through a hidden wall inside apartment 407. Sarah listened without blinking. They discovered a room that didn't exist on any blueprint. It was filled with files, thousands of them, photographs, medical records, financial documents, personal secrets. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Blackmail." Michael nodded. "For decades. They watched everyone important who ever lived in that building. Judges, politicians, police officers, business owners. If someone became powerful, they collected everything they could use against them." Sarah felt a chill run through her body. "My father copied some of the evidence. He believed the authorities would expose it." She looked. "Didn't." Michael laughed bitterly. "The authorities were already part of it. Filled the room. My father disappeared the following night. No investigation. No body. They erased him." Sarah lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." Michael shook his. "Spent 11 years searching for answers. Refused to believe he had simply vanished. Then one night, found his watch." Sarah looked up. "Where?" Michael's expression hardened. "Inside apartment 407. He left it there on purpose. It was the only clue he could leave behind." Slowly nodded. "So you've been investigating ever since." Michael walked toward a metal storage box hidden beneath the bed. Inside were notebooks, maps, photographs, audio recorders, hard drives, years of evidence. "I've been collecting proof. Waiting for the right moment." Sarah looked at the mountain of documents. "You've done all this alone?" Michael smiled. "Thought I had to." Looked directly at her. "Until you opened apartment 407. For the first time, neither of them spoke. They simply looked at one another, two strangers, now connected by the same dangerous secret. Then, a powerful engine roared outside. Michael rushed to the window. His face immediately lost its color. 3 black SUVs rolled to a stop outside the house. Car doors opened. Men dressed in black tactical clothing stepped out. None wore police badges. Each carried radios. One pointed directly toward the house. Michael turned back to Sarah. "They found us." Sarah's stomach dropped. "How?" Michael looked at the mobile phone still clutched in her hand. "The unknown calls. They weren't trying to scare you. They were tracking you." Sarah's face drained of color. She had unknowingly led them straight to Michael. The front door downstairs exploded inward. Bang, heavy boots thundered through the house. A voice shouted, "Search every room." Michael grabbed the metal box of evidence and pushed it into Sarah's hands. "If they get this, my father's sacrifice was for nothing." Then he knelt beside the hidden room. He pulled up a loose wooden floor panel. Beneath it, a narrow staircase disappeared into darkness. Sarah stared in disbelief. "What's down there?" Michael switched on his flashlight. "The only reason I'm still alive." Looked at her. "My father didn't build this tunnel. He discovered it. From somewhere deep below, a strange metallic sound echoed upward. Tap, tap." Michael froze. His expression changed instantly. "No," Sarah whispered. "What is it?" Michael slowly shook his head. "Those footsteps. They don't belong to the men upstairs." Looked into the darkness beneath the tunnel. They were already down there. Michael didn't move. His flashlight remained fixed on the dark staircase. The metallic tapping echoed again. Tap. It wasn't coming from above. It was coming from somewhere deep underground. Sarah's voice. "Thought you said no one knew about this tunnel." Michael swallowed. "I thought they didn't." Another tap echoed through the darkness. Then silence. Michael took a slow breath. "We don't have a choice." He stepped onto the staircase. Sarah followed close behind, above them. The sound of heavy boots shook the floorboards. The men searching the house had reached the hidden room. A loud voice shouted, "Check everywhere." Michael quietly pulled the wooden panel shut over their heads. Darkness swallowed them. Only his flashlight pierced the black tunnel. The staircase seemed endless. Cold air drifted upward. The smell of damp concrete and rust filled the narrow passage. Water dripped steadily from old pipes overhead. Neither of them spoke. Every sound echoed for what felt like miles. Finally, the stairs ended. A narrow tunnel stretched into the darkness. Ancient brick walls surrounded them. Some looked far older than Ashcroft Residences itself. Sarah ran her fingers across the rough stone. How old is this place? Michael shook his head. No one knows. My father believed these tunnels existed long before the apartment building. They continued walking every few yards. Another rusted steel door appeared. Most had heavy chains wrapped around them. Others had strange symbols scratched into the metal. Sarah pointed toward one of them. What's behind those? Michael didn't even look. I've never opened them. Never wondered. I learned long ago. Some doors stay closed for a reason. Sarah fell silent. Several minutes later, the tunnel widened. Old electrical cables ran along the ceiling. Abandoned maintenance carts sat covered in dust. Broken light fixtures hung from exposed pipes. Michael stopped beside a massive steel door. Faded white paint across its surface read, "Authorized personnel." Only he reached into his pocket. Removed an old brass key. The lock clicked. The heavy door slowly creaked open. Sarah stepped inside and gasped. The room was enormous. Shelf after shelf stretched into the darkness. Thousands of boxes, metal filing cabinets, hard drives, tape recordings, photographs, folders stacked from floor to ceiling. It wasn't simply a storage room, it was an archive. Michael slowly swept his flashlight across the shelves. "This is what my father found," whispered, "my God." She walked deeper into the room. Every cabinet carried names, apartment numbers, dates, entire lives, reduced to files then. Stopped, one cabinet stood alone. Unlike all the others, its drawer had been left slightly open across the front. A fresh white label. Sarah Williams, her entire body froze slowly. She pulled the drawer open. Inside were photographs of her leaving her apartment, shopping for groceries, walking into City Hall, even a photograph taken earlier that day. Standing outside the Harper house, someone had followed her. Every single step for days, maybe weeks, her eyes filled with. Never stood a chance. Michael gently closed the drawer. They do this to everyone who gets too close. Sarah looked around the endless archive. So many people. Michael nodded. Some never even knew they were being watched. Filled the underground room then, without warning. The lights flickered one by one. Every light in the archive came to life. The shelves disappeared into bright white light. A calm voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Thank you." A pause for leading us straight back to the archive. Sarah's heart stopped. Michael slowly turned toward the entrance. The massive steel door had begun closing by itself with a deafening boom. It slammed shut. They weren't hiding anymore. They had walked straight into the trap. The steel door slammed shut. Boom. The sound echoed through the underground archive. Sarah rushed toward it. She pulled desperately on the heavy handle. It wouldn't move. Locked. Michael cursed under his breath. "They've sealed us in." The calm voice returned through the hidden speakers. "Mr. Harper, you've hidden remarkably well." Pause. "But every man makes one mistake." Pause. "You trusted someone." Sarah looked around the room. "Where are the speakers?" Michael ignored the question. Instead, he rushed toward an old computer terminal buried beneath years of dust. He wiped the monitor clean with his sleeve. "This archive isn't just paper," he said. "It has digital backups." He pulled a small flash drive from his pocket. "My father copied everything. If I can upload these files, every major newspaper, television network, and federal agency will receive them." Sarah's eyes widened. "All of them?" Michael nodded. "Every secret, every name, every recording." He plugged in the drive. The old computer hummed to life. A loading bar appeared. "Uploading." 2% outside the steel door. A loud grinding sound echoed through the tunnel. Sarah turned. "They're cutting through." Michael never looked away from the screen. "I know." The cutting torch screamed against the steel. Bright orange sparks sprayed through the edges of the door. The upload reached 18%. The voice returned through the speakers. "You really believe anyone will ever see those files?" Michael smiled without looking up. "They only have to see them once." The grinding grew louder. The steel door began glowing red from the heat. Sarah searched the room. Her eyes landed on an old fire axe hanging beside a support column. She grabbed it. Her hands trembled. She had never held a weapon before. Michael glanced at her. "You don't have to fight." Sarah tightened her grip. "They destroyed your father. They followed me. They've ruined countless lives." She raised the axe. "I'm done running, for the first time." Michael smiled, not with fear, with hope. The upload reached 51%. A deafening crack echoed through the room. The first hole burned through the steel door. A gloved hand reached inside. Then another. The opening widened. 3 armed men forced their way into the archive. Sarah swung the axe. Crash. The wooden handle struck the first attacker's arm. His flashlight flew across the room, darkness swallowed half the archive. Another attacker rushed toward Michael. Sarah threw her shoulder against a towering metal filing cabinet. It rocked, then tipped forward. Boom! The cabinet crashed across. Entrance. Thousands of confidential files exploded into the air. Photographs, bank records, medical reports. Secrets rained across the floor like snow. Michael looked at the screen. 94% almost. The attackers climbed over the fallen cabinet. One of them raised his weapon toward the computer. Sarah saw it without thinking. She launched herself into him. Both crashed into another shelf. Boxes burst open. Folders scattered everywhere. The computer beeped. 99% silence. 1 second. 2. Then, a soft electronic tone echoed through the archive. Upload complete. Every monitor in the room suddenly lit up. A single message filled every screen. Files successfully sent. Michael slowly closed his eyes. A relieved smile spread across his face. It's over. The attackers stared at the screens in disbelief. Years of lies, years of blackmail, years of hidden crimes had just been exposed. Outside, sirens began to echo through the tunnel. Not one, not 2, dozens, getting closer, fast. The leader of the attackers slowly lowered his weapon for the first time. Fear appeared on his face. The leader of the attackers stared at the glowing monitor. His confidence was gone. The words on the screen couldn't be undone. Files successfully sent. Michael slowly stood for 11 years. He had carried the truth alone, now. The entire world would see it. The attacker pointed his weapon at Michael one last time. You don't understand what you've done. Michael met his eyes without fear. No, you don't understand what my father started. Anyone could move. A thunderous explosion echoed outside the steel door. Boom! The heavy door burst inward. Armed federal agents flooded into the underground archive. Federal agents. Drop your weapons. Red laser sights filled the room. The attackers looked at one another. There was nowhere left to run. One by one, their weapons hit the floor. Metal clattered across the concrete. Handcuffs clicked shut. The leader never took his eyes off Michael. You think you've won? Michael answered quietly. My father won. It just took 11 years. Hours later, morning sunlight broke across the city. News helicopters circled above Ashcroft residences. Television vans crowded every street. Residents stood behind police barricades in complete disbelief, one by one. Investigators carried hundreds of evidence boxes from beneath the building. Every box represented another secret, another victim, another crime. Television reporters spoke excitedly into their cameras. Breaking news. A massive underground surveillance network has been discovered beneath Ashcroft residences. Federal authorities have confirmed decades of blackmail involving powerful officials. One after another. Police escorted suspects from the building. Some were security officers. Some were maintenance staff. Even Mr. Donovan walked out wearing handcuffs. Gone was his calm expression, as officers led him toward a waiting vehicle. He stopped beside Sarah for several seconds. Neither of them spoke. Finally, he smiled. You should have walked away. Sarah looked him straight in the eyes, then calmly replied, No, I should have opened apartment 407 much sooner. Mr. Donovan lowered his head for the first time. He had no answer. Several days later, city officially condemned Ashcroft residences. Construction fences surrounded every entrance. Investigators continued removing evidence from the underground archive every hour. More arrests appeared on the news. Judges, businessmen, politicians, police officers. The network Daniel Harper had discovered was finally destroyed. Sarah stood quietly outside the building, beside her. Michael watched in silence. Neither of them said a word. They didn't need to after 11 years. Truth had finally come into the light 6 months later. Ashcroft residences stood empty. The once luxurious building was surrounded by tall security fences. Its windows were boarded shut. The marble entrance was cracked. The famous chandeliers had already been removed. Construction crews prepared for demolition. Sarah stood across the street. She no longer looked like the frightened cleaner who had arrived on her first day. She had returned to interior design. Her business was growing again. Beside her stood Michael, for the first time in 11 years. He wasn't looking over his shoulder. A demolition engineer raised his hand. Clear the area. Everyone stepped back. The countdown began. 3, 1. Boom! A series of controlled explosions echoed through the city. The massive building trembled. Concrete cracked. Glass shattered within seconds. Ashcroft residences collapsed into an enormous cloud of dust. Apartment 407. was finally gone. Sarah watched silently. Michael slipped one hand into his pocket, inside. He still carried his father's old wristwatch, a quiet reminder that the truth had finally been set free. He smiled. My father would have liked this. Sarah nodded. He finally got justice. The two of them turned and slowly walked away together for the first time. Neither of them looked back 3 weeks later. Construction workers began clearing the last of the rubble. Bulldozers pushed broken concrete aside. Cranes lifted twisted steel beams. One worker's shovel struck something metallic. Clang, he frowned, brushing away the dust. He uncovered a small rusted steel hatch buried beneath the foundation, bolted to the hatch. An old tarnished brass plate, the numbers read. 407, the worker laughed nervously. That's impossible. His partner walked. Is it? I think there's another basement. He reached toward the old handle just before his fingers touched it. A faint whisper drifted through the silence. Don't. The worker froze. He looked around. There was nobody. The wind, he chuckled awkwardly. Guess I've been watching too many horror movies. He grabbed the handle. The screen instantly faded to black. A slow heartbeat echoed. Thump, thump, thump. Then, white letters slowly appeared. Some doors should never be opened. A final metallic sound echoed from the darkness. Tap. If you enjoyed this mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more suspenseful stories every week. And tell me in the comments, if you discovered apartment 407, would you open the door or walk away forever?